The new Disney live-action Snow White, starring Rachel Zegler, has sparked both controversy and excitement. Today on Collider, we tell you everything about the behind-the-scenes. Disney's decision to reimagine the seven dwarfs in the upcoming live-action Snow White remake has caused a lot of buzz. It's a move that's left many scratching their heads, especially when you consider the reasoning behind it. The studio announced that they wanted to avoid reinforcing stereotypes associated with dwarfs, but in trying to be more progressive, Disney may have missed the mark. Rather than casting dwarf actors, they chose to replace the iconic characters with CGI versions, sparking a whole lot of debate. This all started when actor Peter Dinklage, who is himself a dwarf, voiced his frustrations about the portrayal of the dwarfs. He pointed out that while Disney has made strides in terms of diversity, like casting a Latina actress as Snow White, it was still going ahead with a story that leaned into outdated stereotypes. In a way, he felt that it was a step backward. He brought this up in an interview on Mark Maron's podcast, where he questioned why Disney would reinforce these stereotypes by showing dwarfs living in a cave together, especially when society has come so far in many areas of representation. His comments were clearly meant to challenge Disney to think more critically about how they approach characters with dwarfism in a modern context. It didn't take long for Disney to respond, and in 2022, the studio revealed that instead of casting dwarf actors, the dwarfs would be replaced by magical creatures, as a way of sidestepping the issue altogether. But not everyone was on board with that idea either. Tara Joe, a reality TV star with dwarfism, voiced her disagreement, saying that this decision ignored the voices of people actually living with dwarfism. Her point was that by eliminating roles for dwarf actors, Disney was taking away a rare opportunity for the community to find work in an industry that often overlooks them. While it's easy to understand the desire to avoid reinforcing negative stereotypes, there's something to be said about the missed opportunity here. Hollywood already has very few roles for people with dwarfism, and when a role like this comes up, one where the characters are already part of a magical, fantastical world, this should have been a chance to cast actors who don't get many opportunities. And yet, Disney chose to use CGI to sidestep the issue entirely, which in a way doesn't seem as progressive as they might have hoped. From a VFX perspective, the choice to go digital with the dwarfs is not as simple as it sounds. The trailer for the film already showed us what these CGI dwarfs might look like, and let's just say the results have been divisive. A group of VFX artists from the Corridor crew recently took to YouTube to analyze the Snow White trailer, specifically the CGI dwarfs. Their reaction was mixed.
We are looking at Snow White, and the seven...
Some praised the animation for being painterly and loyal to the look of the classic cartoon dwarfs, but others found the result a little unsettling. One artist mentioned that the CGI was teetering on the edge of the uncanny valley, that eerie feeling you get when a character looks almost human, but not quite. The proportions of the dwarfs in particular seemed exaggerated, making them seem more cartoonish than lifelike.
It's a human.
What did you think I was?
Nothing. Ghost.
But even more than the design itself, there's the technical side of mixing CGI with live action. If everything in the film were animated, it would be easier to create the visuals as a cohesive, fully digital world. But because Snow White features real-life actors interacting with CGI, there are a lot of technical hurdles that come into play. The VFX artists noted that the integration of these digital dwarfs with the live-action characters will be a complicated process, as the CGI dwarfs need to be carefully placed in the real-world setting and interact with real actors in a believable way. It's all about getting the lighting, the shadows, the movement, and the camera angles right, so the dwarfs feel like they belong in the same world as Snow White and the other characters. Some of the Corridor crew artists pointed out that a fully CGI movie would have allowed for more flexibility and better control over the visuals. If everything were animated, they wouldn't have to worry about fitting digital characters into real-world physics and constraints. But the way Disney is approaching this, with real actors and CGI elements, means they're working within the limits of live-action filming, which can make everything look just a little off if it's not done perfectly. While the visual effects may be impressive, there's a lingering sense that the results could still feel unnatural to some viewers. This is where the controversy gets really interesting. While some fans of the classic film may appreciate the effort to stay true to the original design of the dwarfs, the use of CGI doesn't solve the larger problem that Peter Dinklage pointed out. By turning the dwarfs into magical creatures, Disney has removed the opportunity for dwarf actors to be part of the film. It's almost as if, in trying to be more progressive, Disney missed an important part of the conversation: the need for greater representation and job opportunities for actors with dwarfism. At the end of the day, it's clear that Disney's decision to CGI the dwarfs was meant to modernize the story and address concerns about stereotyping, but it has left behind a lot of questions. It's a classic case of trying to do the right thing and inadvertently causing more harm than good. The visual effects might be impressive, but they don't erase the fact that real opportunities for people with dwarfism have been taken away. The debate around this decision will likely continue as the film's release approaches, and it's a conversation that brings up important questions about representation in Hollywood and how much companies like Disney are really doing to make a difference. When Disney decided to give Snow White the live-action treatment, they knew they had to do something special with the music to make it stand out. The original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is a classic, with unforgettable songs like Someday My Prince Will Come and Hi-Ho. Those tunes are iconic, and for the new version of the film, Disney wanted to make sure the music kept that same sense of magic, but also offered something new for modern audiences. That's where EGOT-winning songwriting duo Benj Pasek and Justin Paul come in. Pasek and Paul, known for their work on La La Land and The Greatest Showman, have made a name for themselves creating emotional, catchy tunes that bring movies to life. Their involvement in Snow White marks a big shift in how Disney is approaching its live-action remakes. Instead of relying solely on the familiar songs from the animated movie, they've written new tracks that add emotional depth to the story while still feeling true to the original spirit of the film. One of the first songs they created for the film is Good Things Grow, which plays during the opening scene. Director Mark Webb, known for his work on The Amazing Spider-Man and 500 Days of Summer, wanted the opening number to set a joyful, uplifting tone for the movie. According to Webb, Good Things Grow is meant to be a declaration of happiness and joy, and it's an energetic introduction to the world of Snow White. It's clear from the way the song is composed that it's all about optimism and possibility, setting the stage for Snow White's journey in a way that feels fresh, exciting, and full of life. Then there's the villain song All Is Fair, which gives the evil queen, played by Gal Gadot, a much-needed moment in the spotlight. Villain songs are always fun to write, as Pasek and Paul explain, because they allow the writers to explore darker emotions that aren't often given a voice in traditional storytelling. All Is Fair delves into the queen's jealousy and obsession with beauty, portraying her as more than just a one-dimensional antagonist. The song is dramatic and intense, with music that builds in tension as the queen expresses her envy and desire to remain the fairest in the land. It's a moment that gives depth to the queen's character, making her motivations clear and relatable to the audience. But the real emotional highlight of the soundtrack is Waiting on a Wish, a song performed by Snow White herself. This song is a heartfelt, vulnerable expression of Snow White's dreams and desires. In the behind-the-scenes featurette, we see Rachel Zegler, who plays Snow White, performing the song with Pasek and Paul accompanying her on piano. It's a simple, stripped-back moment that allows the emotional weight of the song to shine through. Snow White's longing for a better life is something we can all relate to, and Waiting on a Wish captures that feeling beautifully.
We wanted to pay homage to the iconic things that we associate Snow White with.
There's also Princess Problems, a new duet that Snow White shares with another character in the film. This song is a bit lighter and playful, showing Snow White's interactions with the people around her. It helps break up some of the heavier moments and adds a sense of fun and levity to the story. While the choice to replace the dwarfs with CGI has stirred up some debate, the film's emotional depth and modern twist on the story will probably leave a lasting impression on the audience. Today on Collider, we tell you everything about Rachel Zegler's journey to becoming Snow White in Disney's live-action adaptation. Let's get started. In a recent interview with The Playlist, Rachel Zegler shared an intriguing and amusing story about how she landed the role of Snow White in Disney's upcoming live-action adaptation. Zegler revealed that during the casting process, she didn't know she was auditioning for the iconic role of Snow White. Instead, she was simply told it was an untitled Disney project, which led to quite a surprise during her audition. Zegler explained that she had received disguised sides for the audition, meaning the script did not feature any character names or specific details that would give away the plot. This mysterious approach to the audition process kept things under wraps, which made Zegler's experience even more amusing. During a Zoom call with the director, Mark Webb, Zegler read through her lines and was instructed to read a scene where Snow White interacts with Dopey, one of the seven dwarfs. It wasn't until Webb mentioned the name Snow in relation to the scene that Zegler realized what she was actually auditioning for. She laughed, recalling the moment. I was like, "Is this Snow White?" And Mark Webb replied, "Yeah, nobody told you?" I'm like, "The sides say Jane and Max. Why would I think Snow White and Dopey?" It was a lighthearted moment that perfectly showcased her personality and helped her connect with Webb during the audition process. Despite this confusion, Zegler's audition was a success, and she was eventually selected for the role. Zegler's casting came after an extensive search by Disney for the right actress to portray Snow White, with the studio looking for someone who could embody the spirit of the beloved character while bringing a fresh take to the role. Zegler, who had limited experience in the industry at the time, impressed the Disney executives with her remarkable singing abilities and stage presence, securing her the coveted role of Snow White. While Zegler was thrilled to be cast as the Disney princess, her casting also sparked discussions about representation, particularly concerning the character's race. Zegler, who has a Colombian-Polish background, differs from the traditional image of Snow White, who is often depicted as fair-skinned and European. This led some critics to question whether Zegler's casting was true to the original character. However, Zegler handled the scrutiny with grace, acknowledging that being criticized for not fitting the typical image of Snow White was a jarring experience. Despite the backlash, Zegler has remained confident and committed to her role, understanding the significance of her casting in terms of representation and inclusivity. She has become a role model for many, showing that Disney's princesses can come in all forms and backgrounds, and that the essence of Snow White transcends race. In fact, Zegler expressed that she is proud to bring a Latina representation to the role, especially since Snow White has always been cherished in Spanish-speaking countries. While she recognizes that she has big shoes to fill, Zegler is eager to introduce a new version of Snow White that resonates with modern audiences. This live-action adaptation is set to reimagine the character in ways that align with contemporary values, empowering Snow White with more agency and depth. Zegler has expressed her excitement about bringing a fresh perspective to the character, one that feels both relatable and inspiring to today's viewers. Zegler's preparation for the role of Snow White involves more than just learning the iconic songs and perfecting her acting skills. She has dedicated herself to a process that includes vocal training, choreography, and deepening her understanding of the character's strength and vulnerability. Snow White in this version will be portrayed as a strong, resilient character who leads with kindness and courage, qualities that Zegler is eager to embody. Zegler knows that the spotlight will be on her in ways she has never experienced before. The attention and anticipation surrounding the live-action Snow White is immense, but Zegler seems ready to take it all on. With her talent, determination, and passion for the role, she is poised to make this version of Snow White her own, bringing the character to life in a way that reflects the diversity and inclusivity of today's world. To authentically bring Snow White to life, Rachel Zegler's preparation for the role went far beyond traditional acting and singing lessons. Her dedication to portraying this iconic character with both depth and authenticity involved a comprehensive approach that included vocal training, acting workshops, as well as an intricate focus on costume, makeup, and overall physical transformation. Zegler was determined to ensure that her portrayal of Snow White would resonate with modern audiences while staying true to the essence of the beloved princess. Vocal training played a significant part in Zegler's preparation for the role. Known for her powerful voice, Zegler worked extensively with vocal coaches to ensure she could deliver the famous songs of Snow White with both emotional resonance and technical precision. Snow White's voice is central to her character, particularly in songs like Someday My Prince Will Come, which have become staples in Disney's animated legacy. Zegler, who had already proven her singing talents in films like West Side Story, was ready to bring her vocal prowess to this role. Her goal was not just to sing the songs, but to imbue them with an emotional depth that would give the character more layers. She wanted to make Snow White's songs feel contemporary and relatable, while still honoring the traditional Disney magic. In addition to vocal training, Zegler underwent intense acting workshops to bring depth and nuance to Snow White's character. Disney's live-action adaptations often add complexity and modern sensibilities to classic tales, and Snow White was no exception. Zegler focused on giving Snow White a sense of agency and empowerment, ensuring that she wasn't just a passive princess waiting for rescue. The film reimagines Snow White as a resilient, independent character who leads with kindness and intelligence. Zegler's preparation included learning how to balance the character's innocence with the strength and determination required to be a leader in her own right. Her transformation into Snow White was also a visual one. The costume and makeup design for the character played a crucial role in bringing the princess into the modern world while preserving her iconic look. The costume designers worked closely with Zegler to create a wardrobe that felt timeless yet grounded in reality. While the classic Snow White dress, a yellow skirt, blue bodice, and red accents, remains the foundation, the new design was meant to feel more practical and empowering. The dress, for instance, was tailored to give Zegler freedom of movement, allowing her to showcase Snow White's inner strength and agility. The modern reimagining of the classic costume also incorporated subtle textures and details, making it more nuanced than the original design. Snow White's traditional red ribbon headband was also updated, offering a new version that felt fresh but still recognizable. The makeup was another vital component in transforming Zegler into Snow White. Rather than relying on heavy makeup to transform her appearance, the makeup team focused on enhancing Zegler's natural features to embody the innocence and purity of Snow White. Subtle touches, such as a soft porcelain-like foundation and rosy cheeks, helped to give Zegler the delicate and youthful look that is essential for Snow White. The makeup aimed to bring out her natural beauty while maintaining a sense of authenticity. Additionally, Zegler's hair was styled in soft waves, much like the traditional Snow White look, but with a modern twist to make it more accessible and contemporary. Her iconic black hair was kept sleek and simple, perfectly complementing the regal yet grounded design of her costume. In addition to costume and makeup, Zegler also worked closely with the filmmakers to develop Snow White's physical movements. The choreography and fight sequences were designed to show Snow White in action, not just waiting to be saved. Zegler underwent training to prepare for these scenes, learning how to convey Snow White's strength through body language. The physicality of the role was essential in showing Snow White as a modern princess who is not only graceful and kind, but also brave and capable of defending herself and those she loves. Zegler's transformation into Snow White is also a reflection of the broader goals for this live-action adaptation, which aims to empower and inspire audiences. The filmmakers were determined to present a version of Snow White that felt more grounded and dynamic, reflecting the diversity and inclusivity of today's world. Zegler's commitment to her role was not just about embodying a princess, but about representing a character who could resonate with contemporary values of leadership, courage, and resilience. Rachel Zegler's dedication to bringing Snow White to life in a way that is both magical and empowering is evident in every aspect of her preparation. Her approach to the role reflects a new era of Disney princesses, ones that are complex, empowered, and reflective of the diverse world we live in. Zegler's portrayal promises to be an unforgettable reimagining of a character that has been adored for generations. Rachel Zegler's journey to becoming Snow White is a testament to the power of persistence, talent, and representation. The making of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was a groundbreaking achievement in animation history. Today on Collider, we tell you everything about it. Back in the early 1930s, Walt Disney was already making waves in the world of animation. His Silly Symphonies shorts were popular, and Steamboat Willie had introduced the world to Mickey Mouse. But as much as people loved these animated shorts, they weren't making Disney enough money to keep his studio growing. He needed something bigger, something that could stand alongside live-action films and prove that animation wasn't just for quick laughs. That's when he had the idea to make the first ever full-length animated feature. The story of Snow White wasn't a random choice. Disney had seen a silent film version of the fairy tale when he was a teenager, and it had stuck with him. He knew that with the right artistic touch, emotional depth, and innovative techniques, he could bring the story to life in a way no one had ever seen before. Of course, not everyone believed in his vision. Many in Hollywood mocked the project, calling it Disney's folly and predicting it would be a disaster. But Walt wasn't one to back down from a challenge. Making Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was no small feat. The film took about 3 years to complete, and cost a staggering $1.4 million, an unheard of sum for an animated film at the time. An unheard of amount of money for an animated film at the time. Disney poured everything he had into it, even mortgaging his own home to keep the production going when funds ran low. The project required an enormous team of talent, with around 750 artists working tirelessly to create nearly 2 million individual drawings. One of the biggest technical breakthroughs during the film's production was the multiplane camera. Up until then, animation could feel pretty flat, with everything moving on a single plane. Disney's team wanted to create something more immersive, something that made audiences feel like they were stepping into a living, breathing fairy tale. The multiplane camera did just that by layering different pieces of animation at various distances and moving them at different speeds. This created a sense of depth and realism that had never been seen before. Disney's team had tested this technique in the short film The Old Mill, but Snow White was the real proving ground. The results were stunning, setting a new benchmark for animation. On top of all the technical challenges, Disney and his team also had to develop a way to make animated characters feel real and emotionally compelling. The animators used live-action footage of actors performing scenes so they could study natural movements and translate them into their drawings. This was especially important for Snow White herself, whose graceful movements and expressive face helped make her a believable and endearing protagonist. Despite doubts and obstacles, Disney remained committed to his vision. He wasn't just making a cartoon, he was redefining cinema. What started as a gamble became one of the most legendary films of all time. At its core, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is a classic fairy tale brought to life in a way that had never been seen before. Based loosely on the Brothers Grimm story, The film tells the tale of Snow White, a kind and beautiful princess whose jealous stepmother, the evil queen, is determined to eliminate her. When Snow White escapes into the forest, she finds safety with the 7 dwarfs, each with their own unique personality. This was a creative touch that made the story more engaging, as the dwarfs weren't just background characters. They had their own quirks, emotions, and charm that added humor and heart to the film. One of the most groundbreaking aspects of Snow White was the animation itself. The artists at Disney pushed the limits of what was possible at the time, using a technique called rotoscoping to make the human characters, especially Snow White and the Prince, move realistically. This process involved filming live actors and then tracing over their movements, frame by frame, to create smooth, natural animation. But while the human characters were meant to be graceful and lifelike, the dwarfs were animated with exaggerated motions and expressions, making them instantly lovable and entertaining. This balance between realism and cartoonish fun made the film feel both magical and emotionally relatable. Another key artistic achievement was Disney's use of color. This was the first full-length cel-animated feature in Technicolor, and the team used it masterfully to enhance the story's mood. The Queen's scenes are filled with dark, eerie shades that highlight her sinister nature, while Snow White's world is bright, warm, and inviting, emphasizing her innocence and kindness. Even the forest shifts in tone. At first, when Snow White is scared, the trees look threatening and shadowy, but once she calms down, the colors become softer and more welcoming. This kind of attention to detail wasn't just visually stunning, it helped guide the audience's emotions throughout the film. The music and sound design also played a huge role in making Snow White so special. Songs like Hi-Ho and Someday My Prince Will Come became instant classics, blending seamlessly with the story rather than feeling like separate musical numbers. Each song helped define the characters and their emotions, making them even more memorable. The dwarfs' cheerful working song, for example, is full of energy and fun, while the Queen's transformation scene is enhanced by eerie, dramatic sound effects that make it even more chilling. From the story and characters to the groundbreaking animation and artistic choices, Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs set a new standard for what animated films could be. It wasn't just a simple fairy tale, it was an immersive, emotional, and visually breathtaking experience that proved animation could be just as powerful as live-action storytelling. And thanks to Disney's attention to detail and innovation, it became a timeless classic that still captivates audiences today. When Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs premiered on December 21, 1937, at the Carthay Circle Theater in Los Angeles, it was nothing short of a game-changer. People had never seen anything like it before. A full-length animated movie with a compelling story, memorable characters, and stunning visuals. Critics loved it, and audiences flocked to theaters, making it a massive box office success. Despite the Great Depression, the film earned around $8 million at the box office, a record-breaking sum at the time, equivalent to hundreds of millions today. This success gave Walt Disney the financial boost he needed to build a brand new studio in Burbank, California, setting the stage for even bigger projects in the future. Walt Disney was so overwhelmed by the audience's reaction that he reportedly cried during the screening. But Snow White wasn't just a financial hit. It completely changed how people viewed animation. Before this film, cartoons were mostly short, funny clips shown before live-action movies. Disney proved that animation could tell deep, emotional stories just as effectively as any Hollywood drama. The film's use of groundbreaking techniques, like the multiplane camera, helped bring scenes to life in a way that felt more immersive than anything that had come before. These innovations didn't just influence future animated films, they also inspired live-action filmmakers to experiment with new storytelling methods. Beyond its technical achievements, Snow White became a cultural phenomenon. The film's characters, songs, and iconic moments quickly became embedded in pop culture. Even today, references to Snow White, the Evil Queen, and the 7 Dwarfs pop up in movies, TV shows, and advertisements. Songs like Hi-Ho and Someday My Prince Will Come remain classics, instantly recognizable to generations of fans. The success of Snow White also showed Hollywood that animated movies weren't just a novelty, they were a major commercial force. Other studios soon followed Disney's lead, paving the way for the animated film industry as we know it today. Hollywood officially recognized the film's impact in 1939, when Disney received a special Academy Award for Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. Instead of a single Oscar, he was given one full-size statue, along with 7 miniature ones, symbolizing Snow White and her dwarf companions. It was a charming and fitting tribute to a film that had redefined animation. Even decades later, Snow White continues to inspire filmmakers, animators, and storytellers. Its influence can be seen in countless animated movies that followed, from Cinderella to The Lion King and beyond. Disney's commitment to innovation and emotional storytelling in Snow White set a benchmark that animation studios still strive to reach. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs remains a timeless masterpiece. It's a piece of cinematic history that continues to captivate audiences and remind us all of the power of imagination. Thanks for watching Collider. See you next time.